Morning medicine. Baptisia Tincturia. Great influenza remedy. Let's get into some folklore. Wild indigo, which is what the plant is of America, has its reputation as a remedy for typhoid fever. In low potency, it increases the resistance power of the body against typhoid. In one case, that of an old man, food could be swallowed and retained some days, but not on others. He had always liked very hot food. The esophagus was red and granular. Baptisia 12C helped. I can't say the word cured anymore because YouTube um, basically flagged me. And you can't diagnose, treat, cure, prevent, medicate any disease or condition. So I'm just reading out of a book, so I don't know why uh, they're fighting against us. But like I was on a call with people from UK, and they said this is our season. They had a tough time with COVID. Arsenicum, they said, was working for COVID. Now they'll probably flag me for that. And what I was on was the lady was what is it called? Homeopathic prophylactic. So in other words, giving you see a disease coming through, and you give this medicine to kind of like a vaccination for whatever that disease is. So and I've always I believed in that because when COVID came through, I took a medicine to kind of keep things make sure I didn't get. I took antimony and tarp so that thing didn't go down in my lungs. That of an old man. Okay, so in typhoid fever, in low potencies, it increases resistance, power of the body. Oh, this guy was helped with Baptisia 12C. Hale considers it specific in threatened miscarriage. So there's a few medicines that are for threatened miscarriage. For mental depression, though, this one, if they have mental depression and they have a threatened, they might have a miscarriage, you might want to consider Baptisia tinctoria. Let's see. Shock of either from mental depression, from shock, bad news, night watching, fasting, or low septic fevers. So these are all can cause the infection. Patients in these conditions often complain of dreadful sinking at the stomach. So they just have a sinking sensation in the stomach, fetid breath, which is smelly breath, and other symptoms of baptisia. So any woman that's pregnant and they're having a threatened miscarriage because of bad news, a shock, um, fever. What else was there? Fever. Do, 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 do. Okay, so anyways, basically miscarriage, any kind of mental stuff going on, depression, shock, fever, whatever. Many cases of tuberculosis are relieved by this remedy when the symptom and type of fever correspond. So when you have tuberculosis, you have a uh, uh, certain fever that would correspond to this. It has cured hysteria and prostration, numbness and fear of paralysis, so they have numbness in parts of their body and they have this fear of paralysis, wanting to die. So they're at a point where, like, man, I just had enough. Rubbed hands continually. They're always rubbing their hands together, and they're very restless. Many case. Okay, so let's get into it. I don't know. I've been doing this on Facebook for a while now. I started putting it on YouTube, and all of a sudden there's a problem. And I understand you can't say cured, you can't say this. You always go to your doctor. I'm doing this for educational purposes, and the only way I'd be able to um, really talk about it or educate people is in my community. And I'm not here to. Uh, I don't even. It doesn't matter. Baptisia tinctoria, wild indigo, whatever they have to do. If they want to take me off YouTube, that's fine. I'll find a way to get the message out because people really need this time with hospitals going to be closing, your insurance going from what's increasing by what I think 70%. I just seen, well, My sister's is going from 500 a month to for her and her husband. They're He's 63, I think, and she's 58, something to that effect. And it's going from 500 a month for the two of them to 1,700 a month. It's like, yeah, crazy. And that's because they got rid of the American Care Act. So everybody's going to be losing their insurance, not affording it. All these people that have been laid off and fired, from what they say, and I don't know if it's going to truly happen, but the hospitals are going to close. You better take control of your health yourself. Now, I do health coaching, which is basically how to eat, when to eat, what to eat, and if you don't take control of that, I mean, the food industry has it set up where, they're just filling you with sugar. You look at everything, it's got high fructose corn syrup in it. It doesn't matter what it is. You look at it, they throw that stuff in for some reason. They know, well, not for some reason. They know that's an addictive thing. It's just like when they used to throw cocaine into Pepsi or Coke. Yeah, it was in Coke. Uh, People loved it. Yeah, I wonder why. Now they took that out and put sugar and caffeine in it, and sugar's just as highly addictive as cocaine. And we are so hijacked with sugar. If you don't take control of that and you get sick, I don't know what's going to happen out here because, I don't know. With insurance being that high, people losing their jobs, and your jobs are tied, which is a shame, to your health insurance. And, if these hospitals do close, these local hospitals, it's going to be hard to get care. And that's why, I just want to get this message out of homeopathic medicine, and people that come into my community, they can interact with me and learn homeopathic medicine for their family. I've been using it. I gave my wife what graffitis yesterday, and she said she had an earache, but it ended up, I realized, oh, this, I bet you it's coming from her throat. And then I realized her gland was swollen on the left side, and I gave her graffitis, and she said, "Oh, it's better." Now, is that the right medicine? I'm not sure if it's totally, because it didn't totally. When you hit the right medicine, it gone like that. It's amazing how it works. But some of these medicines will just palliate it. So, and I realize she's having a fever and a chills. She didn't, she doesn't give me these symptoms. She said, I got an earache, and then I got to figure out, oh, wait a minute, is it coming, is it your ear? I gave her some medicines for earaches, and then I realized, wait a minute, is it her coming for her throat to her ear? Because I was thinking from the ear to the throat, an infection. Wasn't red, didn't have pus coming out, didn't have any, anything like that. Wasn't truly painful, but she said painful to the touch. So I gave her ear remedy, didn't help. So then I started thinking again, oh, her throat. Okay, her throat, she got swollen gland. So the gland's swollen, and that's causing the ear problem, the ear pain. And then, so I gave her graffitis. Now I'm realizing she got a fever, low grade fever, because she's in there last night going, oh, it's so hot. I'm just burning up. I'm sweating. I'm thinking, it's getting cold now. You want the air conditioner on, And then I realized, oh, she's having a fever. I said, do you get cold too? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I get the chill, So fever, chills, swollen gland, and the pain goes up into her ear. So, that's kind of how you look at things. And if you don't, what would I do? We don't have insurance right now, me and my wife, um, not for what, 63 or 2 years. 2 years we'll get Medicare. Now, if the hospital's closed, is that going to help? Take control. Now, I can't take control of my wife's health because she drinks nothing but soda pop, smokes cigarettes, and eats sugary, either pancakes or, she doesn't eat well. Let's put it that way. So, what do you do there? I can take care of her as long as I can, but I don't know. Anyways, Baptisia Tincturia. You better take control of your health now before you really have problems and you're not able to be taken care of. Or, like in COVID, millions died, you know. And why did they die? Number one, their health was bad. It mainly hit a lot of the people, their health was already bad, that died. Oh. And then, the other end of it is the medicines, they didn't have anything, they were throwing you on ventilators and things like that. Now, this would probably get me in trouble with YouTube, but what are you gonna do? I mean, I gotta watch my talk when you can't tell them, you can't talk about reality and what's going on. Specific, okay, Baptisia tincturia. Let me get off of that bandwagon. Septic conditions. Oh, I spelled conditions real funny. Should be no S in there. Septic condition. So septic is any kind of blood poisoning. Restlessness, indescribable sick feeling all over. So they just feel nasty. And these are all threes. Muscle soreness and putrid states. That's a three. So this muscle soreness is kind of like arnica. When someone has a flu, you'd consider baptisia, arnica, of course, aconite, arsenicum, all these ones. Burning is arsenicum, aconite is more fear and sudden onset. Baptisia also has the sudden onset, right? But the muscle soreness is an arnica thing. The bed feels too hard, things like that. Let's see. Epidemic influenza. So, this is really shined when there was an epidemic influenza around. Baptisia basically took care of all that. That's a three. Soreness, heaviness, and aching of the muscles. That's a three. Fetid odor. So the odor coming from the mouth, coming from the armpits, coming from the stool, and most likely the sweat and the urine. All kinds of fetid odor. Body, breath, stool, sweat, urine, all that. I didn't realize I wrote that down. Worse open air, cold wind, and in the autumn. So, mainly if you get flus, you got certain remedies that are good for flus in the autumn. Some are good for flus in the spring. Some are winter. So, basically you're going off the autumn flu. You all of a sudden think of baptisia when the flu comes around in the autumn times. You would think about taking like baptisia, and that's what that class was on yesterday. It was homeoprophylactics, and she was talking about Hahnemann. He had a case where I forget what was going. I think it was a flu or something. I forget what was going on. Uh, but it was like a flu that was going through the communities. And he already had a young girl that was taking belladonna. And everybody in her family had the flu, but she didn't. So he was like, wow, that's interesting. So I don't know if he did experiments on it, she said, but he basically realized that giving that medicine ahead of time stops that disease. Will act like a vaccination for the disease. So that's another thing I'll get in trouble for. Waking and walking, pressure, hot weather. They don't like hot weather, pressure, waking, walking. Worse in the autumn, cold wind, open air. Dull, confused in the mind. They're dull and confused. They have an indifference to life. They don't care. That's where that. Anyways, that's where they want to end it. That's what I read. I was wondering where I seen that. Hopeless, melancholic, which is a depression. So this is a very interesting. Thinks he is double and tosses about bed to get pieces together. Feels like all his arms fell off, his legs fell off. Now this isn't a later stage of the flu. This person will feel like their body parts, they're in half. Their body parts are all fall. Their arms fell off, their legs fell off, whatever. And they'll be trying to get them all them parts back together. And I remember when I had the uh, walking pneumonia, and I could see a little green men up on the thing. I remember throwing up, my mother cleaning it up, and I looked up and on the curtain rods, or yeah, the curtain rods, there was little green men. They look like ghost figures, and that was really wild. So this person feels like their parts are all they're all separated, and they got to get their arms back, their legs back, their bodies in half. Maybe they got to find their head. So that is in a later stage of the flu, and that's a three. That's a big one. Um, Fullness and distension of the stomach, of the abdomen. Sore liver region on the right side. So the liver region, there's a sore pain. Pain in spleen. That's probably because they got some liver things. Pain in spleen, and glands in groin are swelled up. So that is a lot of problems down in the abdomen. That's why you'll see it's a gastric they talk about it being a gastric influenza or a gastric situation. Back, hips are stiff. They ache severely. Worse from walking. They can't, they walk around their hips and their back aches. Bed sores. So anybody that's taking care of somebody and they got bed sores, you might want to consider Baptisia for that. Stiff, lame neck. So the neck, and that's why I always say, wake up, and they're like, oh man, I must have slept wrong. And no, you may have a beginning or uh, be infected with some flu bacteria. And you might want to consider Baptisia to head it off. And it could be many. Stiff neck can be a lot of things. You'd have to match it with a lot of other symptoms. Constriction of the chest, oppression and weakness, unsatisfied breathing, so they don't feel like they're fully getting the oxygen they need. Dull hearing, so that, this could have been one. I know they said they were using arsenicum was one of the main remedies in India for that COVID. I used antimonium tarp. That's for the fluid buildup. Uh, Baptisia could have been one for that whole COVID situation. So we're all individuals. There's not a one medicine for everything. Now, one medicine will work for a majority of people, but you may need other medicines in there for other things. Like I said, arsenicum they were using in India for the COVID. Dull hearing, early deafness in typhoid. So people that have typhoid, their ears get infected. Baptisia would be good for that. Delirium with deafness. Eyelids are heavy, swollen as if half closed. Hmm. Photophobia. So this dull, heavy eyelid thing, that's a gelsemium too. Gelsemium has that. They're dopey, and this also has the dopey look, besottled they call it. Yeah, the besottled look on the face, like dopey, drunk looking, and their eyes are half masked. That's gelsemium, baptisia. So there's a few medicines that have that. Photophobia, everything seems to move. So, they can't take the light, and everything seems to be jumping around as they're looking at it. Besottled look, that's that dopey look. Eyes are half masked, or they look real dull. Cracked, bleeding lips, so a lot of dryness and bleeding, cracked lips. Pain in left parotid gland, that's the jaw. And muscle jaws are rigid, very rigid jaws. The parotid gland probably is swollen. uh, Stomatitis, which is mouth sores from nursing mothers. Oh, that's, yeah, you could say that's in the mouth. That could be in the female, But anyway, stomatitis, which is they got sores in their mouth, uh, and these are nursing mothers that have the sores. And that's why that could be a female, or that could be that could be down in the mouth area or in the face area. But menses are early and profuse, so they got a lot of bleeding, and they come early. Threatened miscarriage from mental depression, shock, night watching, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, they get this threatened. They get a bad news, and all of a sudden they feel, their pregnancy feels in trouble. You want to consider Baptisia. And there's a few other ones with that. Puerperal fever. So that's a fever during, while they're while they have a baby. Puerperal is pregnant. So they have a fever while they're pregnant. Lochia is acrid and fetid. That's a discharge coming out of the vagina. It's has a bad odor, and it's like burning the tissues. Constant desire for water with nausea, want of appetite. They don't feel like eating, and they can swallow water, but they can't swallow food. Worse nourishment and stimulants, especially beer. So they can't take any kind of stimulants, coffee, beer, alcohol, anything is a stimulant. They can't handle, especially beer. But they have nausea, and they don't. That's why they don't want to eat. And I think the throat is painless, sore throat, constriction, can only swallow liquids. That's what I thought. So they can't swallow the food, so that's why they have this one of appetite too. And it's probably because of the stomach situations and all that. Got a lot of gastric stuff with this. Feels too large. The head feels too large. It's heavy and numb. That's a 3. Sore eyeballs and brain. So the brain and eyeballs are sore. they got a heavy numb feeling, and head feels just too large for them. Feels asleep while falls asleep while spoken to. They're in a stupor, so they're having a conversation and they fall asleep. So that's that whole dopey thing, And I don't think gelsemium has that. There's probably a couple medicines that have that, but vertes feel as if it would fly off. So it feels like their top of their head will pop off. Uh, that's the vertes. That's the top of the part of the head. Okay, heart feels great increase of heart palpitations. So they get these palpitations in their heart. It pulse is accelerated at first, then it's slow and faint. Stitches in right kidney, shooting in the left kidney. So right kidney has stitches, which is like a stabbing pain, basically sharp pain that comes in, and then they have shooting pains in the left. I don't know what the difference there is. Shooting and stitching. Stitching is more sharp. Shooting is more dull, like burning urination. So when they're urinating, they burn. They have a burning sensation. Scanty, dark red, alkaline, and fetid is so they're barely urinating and it becomes dark and red and alkaline and fetid. Now this alkaline and that is because the liver is not filtering out all the toxins. So that's why you're getting this alkaline and it's red and dark and smelly. Now, when they have uremia, which is a liver situation. That's why there's liver problems and stuff, that shooting pain and all that. It's light green urine. So uremia is they're urinating a lot, basically. Muscles ache, bruised pain. That's like I said, an arnica thing. Bed feels too hard. That's a 3. That's a 3. So these mesoaches and bed feels too hard. That is definitely an arnica symptoms right there. So you'd be considering Baptisia with arnica. Those are both 3s. Great witness lower limbs. Weakness. Great weakness, lower limbs. So, and that comes with vertigo. I think it says it up there. Anyways, bed sores. There again, bed sores, baptisia. So you have a person that you're taking care of, and they're always in bed, and they get bed sores. You might want to consider baptisia. Calendula would be another one. Like a calendula ointment on it would heal that up. You'd be surprised how well calendula works. Soreness over gallbladder region. So there's a lot of things going down with the liver's got pains, the gallbladder's got pains, the spleen is what? Pain in the spleen. There's just a lot going down in the stomach, and that diphtheria is from bad water or bad food. So that could be part of it. With diarrhea. So they have this soreness over gallbladder with pain and diarrhea, pain in liver to gallbladder. So there's a concomitant there. They're related. Can scarcely walk. Hot sensation in the liver region. So a lot of liver stuff, a lot of gallbladder stuff, a lot of spleen stuff, and a lot of stomach stuff going on down there with this medicine. Breathing is difficult. Now it doesn't always have to be just from. It's a major flu remedy, but it doesn't just have to be from the flu. It can be from bad water. You get bad food and bad water. Arsenicum's a major one for that, and you would consider baptisia and a few other ones for having being poisoned by that stuff. Um, let's see. Breathing is difficult from weakness of chest. Worse, waking. So when they wake up, they have a difficult breathing because their chest is so weak. And that's probably from the flu and that. And like in COVID, that's what they were having. They were having problems breathing. Their chest was weak. They were filling up with a lot of mucus. Bronchial asthma with a sense of suffocation. That's 3. So the bronchial tubes are messed up, and they got this asthma in there with the sense of suffocation. I might as well do breast while I'm here. Breast, dull stitches in the left nipple. So there's more stitches. That's the breast. Any breast situation. There's a few of them that have this stitches in the left nipple. So, but it could be a right nipple, left nipple. It could be lumps and stuff. So you'd have to consider different medicines for different situations with the breast. Mouth, putrid, offensive breath. That's a 3. Can swallow liquids only. That's a 3. Solid food gags them. Ulcers in the mouth. Lower jaw drops. There's a kid that has he's got what the heck's he got? Like autism, or I don't know what it is. But anyways, his jaw just dropped on him, and I would love to have worked with that lady, but Baptisia might have been the one to consider with this lower jaw drops. Anyways, putrid ulcers with salivation. So the mouth has a lot of ulcers on the tongue, on the mouth, and a lot of salivation going on. And salivate, anyways, dull pain, root of nose. So a lot of pain in the root of the nose, nosebleed, dark blood. So there's dark blood with a nosebleed. 25. I'm still good. Painless, dysentery. So this is dysentery, is the bad food, bad water with a fever. So that would be like a anyways, that baptisia for any kind of fever from dysentery from having, and that's where the pains in the belly, the abdomen, and the distension and the spleen and the liver and the groin and all that can be coming from that. It can be other situations, but it's basically, where the heck am I? Stricture from hemorrhoids in the, oh, wait a minute. I was up in the nose. Sorry, sneezing after severe cold. So when they have a cold and they're getting over the cold, they have a lot of sneezing going on. Sensation of fullness in the nose, edema. So a lot of fluid being held up in the nose. That's what edema is. They have dull pain there because of and they have a dark, a nosebleed with dark blood, but they have a fullness up in there. That's where that pain's coming from. And they start sneezing after a severe cold comes on. It's offensive, thick, dark, bloody stools. So there's more blood. Dark blood, nose, rectum. So a lot of dark blood. Surprised the female doesn't say dark blood. Anyways, painless dysentery with fever. I think I'm like all over the place here. I just keep thinking about, I gotta watch what I say. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but it doesn't matter. If they throw me off YouTube, what are you gonna do? Painless dysentery with fever, stricture from hemorrhoids. Okay, I did that, but I think I skipped over the nose there. Sorry about that. Livid spots. That's from the liver. They get old folks get black spots, like freckles, sort of, but they're livid spots on the skin from liver situations, and especially in older people. Burning heat, arsenicum. Any kind of skin that has burning heat, any kind of burning, you always think of arsenicum. Measles-like eruptions or urticaria. So they can have these eruptions on the skin. Confluent smallpox, which is infection after legion. So uh, smallpox, measles, urticaria, all these things have baptisia would be good for when you have this kind of symptoms on the skin. And you'd have the fever with the measles, fever with the smallpox. So you might want to consider baptisia for all that. Syphilitic sores. So anyone had syphilis and they got sores, you would consider baptisia. Tongue feels burned, yellowish brown in the middle. Edges are red and shiny, and they have a numb and pricking pain in there. All right, let's see. Yeah, no sleep, but the sleep is disrupted. I don't know why there's no sleep here, but the sleep is disrupted by them feeling like thinks he is double and tosses about in bed to get pieces. So that's in later situations, but even at that, trying to catch their breath, things like that can probably interrupt the sleep. Constriction of cardiac orifice. That's a 3. So the stomach stuff is related to the heart. That's the cardiac. And they feel like there's a constriction there from the stomach situation that's going on. A sinking feeling in the stomach. That's a 3. Worse beer. Calibic has that also. Worse beer. Any kind of symptom that's worse beer. Calibic. Baptisia. Feels like hard substances in the stomach. Abies niger has that symptom in it. So that's you look up feels like a hard substance, Abies niger and Baptisia would be there, probably a few other remedies. And then worse beer, Calibic and Baptisia would be under any situations in the stomach. Worse from beer, Calibic and Baptisia would be there, along with a few others I don't dot. Swords on teeth and lips. So those are like a darkening affection. Anyways, sores on teeth and lip. Gums are sore and ulcerated, so the tongue, the gums, the mouth, all kinds of sores on them. High fever, sudden onset. That's the temperature, with the temperature. So all of a sudden, a high fever comes on, and you would consider Baptisia. Now, aconite also has a sudden onset too. Gastric influenza. Now that's what I say. A lot of the stomach stuff, they got influenza, but it's they're calling it gastric influenza because there's a lot of stomach things going on with this. Just like I say, you got a headache. Was it a gastric headache? Is it stress headache? Is this flu coming from all the stomach symptoms? You know, typhus fever, septic fever. So any of these fevers, these typhus and septic fevers, you'd consider Baptisia. Painless sore throat. Now, there's another one. Oh, I'll read it. Painless sore throat. There's another one that has painful sore throat. That would be the difference that how you would differentiate between the two medicines, from painless sore throat to painful sore throat. Constriction can only swallow liquids, so that's a 3. Confused. They're confused with weak feeling in legs with pressure at root of nose. So they've got this pressure in their nose. Their legs feel weak from them, and they got vertigo from all of it. Oh man, I'm over. Oh well. This is a big medicine. This is one of the polycrests that you would consider in a lot of things. Among the chief symptoms of the remedy are the following: stupor, falls asleep while being spoken to, confused as if drunk, cannot keep his mind together, a wild, wandering feeling. The scattered feeling is further exemplified in the illusion that the body is double, limbs separated and conversing with each other. Can't sleep because body seems scattered about and cannot collect pieces. And that's in later influenza. The beginning of a flu, that wouldn't be the case. There is a dull, heavy sensation in head with drowsiness and heavy eyelids. The head feels large with a numb feeling of head and face. Bruised headache, soreness as if brain. Bruised feeling in occiput, heavy feeling in base of brain with drawing in cervical muscles, that's the neck muscles. Frontal headache with pressure at root of nose, the neck is tired, cannot hold head easy in any position. So they can't hold their head up. The eyes cannot bear light, burn, are weak, painful on reading. Weight on eyes, eyeballs are sore, lame on moving, bleary eyed, lids partially paralyzed, an illusion of smell as of burnt feathers. I don't think there's any other medicine that I think there might be another one, but they feel this, they're smelling like burnt feathers all the time. This would definitely be a Baptisia. That's like a 3 there. As if caused by and cured by it. Pain in left parotid gland, which is in the jaw, in the mouth. Flat, bitter taste, tongue swollen, feels numb, speech difficult. So this is that dopey stuff going on there, like gelsemium. Is coated whitish yellow and feels burnt or scalded. Dry, parched, brown center, cracked and ulcerated. So the tongue is cracked and ulcerated. Ulcerations, canker sores in mouth. The sore mouth of nursing children. Painless is a feature in the sore throat. Putrid, painless, dark ulcers. Esophagus feels constricted down to stomach. Can only swallow liquids. Cases of convulsive contraction of esophagus and cardiac orifice. So there's that heart and that throat being related, along with the stomach. With regurgitation of food have been cured by it. Oops, shouldn't say cured, sorry. Nausea, wrenching, and vomiting, sinking, gone feeling, pain in liver, and especially in gallbladder. In spleen, in right iliac region, that's the hip. In groin, glands are swollen. Soreness of abdominal muscles in right iliac region. Fetid, exhausting diarrhea, smelly diarrhea that exhausts them. Dysentery in autumn or hot weather. Worms. The urine is high colored, scanty, alkaline, fetid, orchitis, squeezed pain in testes. Lumbar backache, feels as if lying on board, pain in sacrum. And that's a arnica situation, that lying on a board. Weakness of lower limbs, left foot much prickling and numbness. So they got numbness and prickling pain in the left foot. Numbness and soreness are very general in Baptisia patients. The bed feels hard, which is an arnica situation. There is excessive drowsiness. So echinacea is perhaps its nearest analog. So Baptisia or Ignatia you'd be considering in a flu like that. Gelsemium, arnica, arsenic, pyrogen, bryonia, and or arsenica may be all those ones: gelsemium, arnica, arsenic, and pyrogen. I'm over. What's the difference? Sorry, I'm not going to try to rush. This is kind of important. Bryonia or arsenica may be needed to complete the favorable reaction. So you start out with Baptisia, and you may need to give bryonia or arsenicum for the finalization of it. Alanthus, which is the tree of heaven, differs, being more painful. Baptisia, more painless. So that sore throat, that's what I was saying. And Alanthus, which is the tree of heaven, uh, that would be more painful in the throat rather than like Baptisia is painless. Rustox, muriatic acid, hyoscyamus, Calimur, Nacticis, muriatic acid, nitric acid, all those ones would be considered in this with the flu. And Rustox is a good flu remedy. A lot of these are. Follows well arsenicum. So you're given Baptisia, and that's what it said. Bryonia or arsenicum may be needed. Followed by terentium, nitric acid, hemimelius, in typhoid. Nux vomica, opium, rustox, silica has, like Baptisia, ability to swallow only liquid. So when you're looking up that symptom, you'd have nux vomica, opium, rustox, silica, and Baptisia. Silica has aversion to milk. So basically, that's the whole idea. Once you get symptoms, then you're going into the repertory, you're looking at it and seeing, oh, I got these, under can only swallow, painless swallowing. You got Alantheus and Baptisia. You got, so you're looking at and you're trying to differentiate the symptoms. That's where, two remedies. Say you got three remedies. You're down to three remedies and you're trying to decide which one will work. You basically differentiate, between the symptoms, which one likes sweets, which one likes sour, which one, all these different things help you to determine between medicines which one will actually be the one to consider to work. So, all right, that's I'm way over. Sorry, but this is a big polychrist remedy, and there's a lot to it, and it's a great one. Like now, autumn flu's coming up. You might even take it beforehand to kind of like a vaccination. That's what they call homeoprophylaxis. To, if you know the symptoms, especially of the things, you can give a medicine that corresponds to it. So, anyways, that's morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. Oh boy, how many?